Hey, sports fans, you know that sound. It is the beginning of our podcast, Unbiased, episode 6 today, September 27th, 2022. I'm your host, Mr. Unbiased, Connor Benyon, jumping right in. I really appreciate if you guys enjoy the lengthy videos, but I want to see if I can condense this and make these videos a little bit shorter. I'll do my best. We're going to jump right in. I did want to make mention the U.S. men's national team. So they had a friendly on Friday and lost to Japan 2-0. I started with them because they actually literally probably 5 minutes ago, as I'm filming this video, about 5 minutes ago, finished their 0-0 draw with Saudi Arabia. The World Cup is less than 2 months away, and I'm really looking forward to that building up and looking forward to what the USA can do. Plenty of work to do still. No question as they prep for the World Cup. Jumping right into the MLS playoff race, it's heating up. There are two final matches for Real Salt Lake. They're currently sitting in 8th place, and what makes that very interesting for them is only the top 6 seeds qualify. Again, right now they're in 8th place. They play Saturday at the LA Galaxy, who have a 3-point lead on Real Salt Lake. And for non-soccer fans, if you win a match, you get 3 points. If you tie, you get 1. And if you lose, you get 0. So not only does the score matter, but obviously, like, you can tie and still get a point. But if you win, you get the 3 points, which would be a huge, huge difference, obviously, for Real Salt Lake. And then their regular season finale is Sunday, October 9th versus Portland, who's also in the playoff race. So very interesting road for Real Salt Lake. I'm hoping the best for them. But it's going to be a tough road, no question. The Galaxy and the Portland Timbers are definitely two opponents that RSL has struggled with in the past. So we'll see what happens with them. That's who's standing in their way of making the postseason. So we're going to jump into another playoff race that's heating up. Brand new flag over this past week for my Yankees because I got to get ready. They're heating up. The Yankees have clinched a playoff spot, and they have almost, knock on wood, all but clinched the AL East. They are actually playing the Toronto Blue Jays today and tomorrow. If they win one of those two games, they automatically win the AL East. Their magic number is 2. So if they win today or tomorrow, they automatically clinch the AL East. But if they don't win today or tomorrow, they're still in a pretty good position. They have a 7.5 game lead on Toronto. So the Yankees have all but won the AL East. The AL Central has been clinched already by the Cleveland Guardians, so congratulations to them. They're headed to the postseason. And as we talked about, the Houston Astros have already clinched their division with a 101 win, 53 loss record so far. Very impressive for them. In regards to the wild card, Toronto holds that top spot. They have a 3-game lead over Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has a half a game lead over Seattle. So it goes Toronto, Tampa Bay, Seattle. I like the way that all 3 of those teams are playing, and I think that that's what you'll see come the conclusion of this regular season. I think Toronto will be your 1, Tampa will be your 2, Seattle will be 3. Baltimore's charging. They're 3.5 games behind Seattle, but that's a lot of ground to make up with the way Seattle's playing. So again, I think where we are standing wise is what we'll see heading into the postseason. In the National League, the New York Mets lead the Atlanta Braves by 1 game for that NL East crown. I still like the Mets to hold off. I like the way that they've been playing. I like them to hold off the Braves. The St. Louis Cardinals lead the Milwaukee Brewers by 6.5 games. Again, they've almost all but clinched the division. So I like St. Louis obviously winning that division. And the Dodgers have already won their division, 106 wins, 47 losses, best record in baseball. And if I have this correctly, they have also already clinched home field advantage through the NLCS should they make it that far. So the Dodgers are definitely a team to reckon with. The wild card, again, with the way that Atlanta's record is and the way that they're playing, they have a 12-game lead on San Diego. Again, they have all but clinched that number 1 playoff spot unless they overtake the Mets. Then the Mets would be the number 1 playoff spot. San Diego has a 1.5 game lead on Philadelphia, and I think that's where they'll stay. I think San Diego will hang on to be that 2nd spot, and then Philadelphia 3. So those are your MLB playoff races. Again, we are rapidly approaching schedule-wise. I mean, for example, I'll just pull up the Yankees schedule, they, like I said, oh, there we go, schedule, sorry, I'm pulling this up. Like I said, they play, sorry, they, sorry, they play, if this will load, they play Toronto today and tomorrow, and then Friday they play Baltimore, Saturday they play Baltimore, Sunday they play Baltimore, and then they play Texas 4 times in 3 days. They play the Rangers Monday, a doubleheader Tuesday, and then Wednesday, October 5th, is the regular season finale for the Yankees. So everyone's about there. Again, for the Yankees, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're into single digits for most teams, if not all teams. So MLB playoff races, they're going to be right around the corner. They're heating up, but I think we have a pretty good feeling for what we're going to be seeing. That's all we're going to review on the MLB. But again, as soon as that postseason hits, we all know that is when the stars shine the brightest. So we're really looking forward to seeing what happens in the MLB playoff races. In regards to college football, here's what it comes down to. College football, like the NFL, week after week continues to entertain. It continues to amaze us. That is why it is one of the greatest sporting situations in the world. Just to make mention, I had a pretty good week. My record in the NCAA is 15-4, a lot better than my NFL record, which we'll talk about in a second. 15-4 was my record this week. Reviewing those games, BYU versus Wyoming. BYU was victorious 38-24. There were some concerns that I had for sure. It was really hard as a BYU fan to see Puka Nacua re-injure his ankle. So that'll be really interesting considering that they play a Utah State team that's been struggling. And so he really could have been resting against Wyoming, resting against Utah State, and then been ready for the huge matchup against Notre Dame in Las Vegas. Not this week, but the following week. So it'll be super interesting to see what happens regarding Puka Nacua. But for the Cougs, they were victorious 38-24. I did predict that correctly. Utah at Arizona State, they started out their Pac-12 play in an impressive fashion. Utah being Utah, beat Arizona State 34-13 on the road. A great way to start conference play. UNLV at Utah State. UNLV goes in to Logan. They win 34-24, a place that's typically pretty difficult to win in. That drops Utah State to 1-3. And I mean, the problem that arises is this. At 1-3, and this is going to come across as the biased view, at 1-3, after losing to UNLV and Weber State, I'm going to have a hard time picking for Utah State. I was thinking it was going to be the opposite. I thought they were going to come in and win a lot of games. But right now at 1-3, I get that their Mountain West schedule is coming up, and I feel like they've had some pretty good success. Obviously, they won the Mountain last year. But it's going to be super interesting for them. That's a heart-wrenching loss just because you felt like they had the opportunities for sure, but those turnovers are killing Utah State. So it'll be fascinating to see what they do moving forward. We'll talk about their opponent in a second because it's actually an in-state 2-for-1 guess, if you will. Weber State at UC Davis. I was correct on that game as well. Weber State won 17-12. I did want to make a correction. Last show, I said that Weber State was in the Sun Belt Conference. That's not true. They're in the Big Sky Conference. So just wanted to make that clarification. A top 25 clash was Clemson at Wake Forest. It took double overtime, but Clemson did defeat Wake Forest, and I was correct on that one, so that was a close one. Florida at Tennessee, another close one. Tennessee eked out that one 38-33. I did guess that came correctly. And then the final game that I predicted, again, another top 25 matchup in the SEC, was Arkansas at Texas A&M. I was correct on that game. Texas A&M won 23-21. The go-ahead field goal with under a minute and a half from Arkansas hit the top right upright and bounced off and didn't go in. So that one could have gone either way. Luckily, it went my way. Another correction, I apologize. That game was not played at Kyle Field, the home field of the Texas A&M Aggies. It was played in Cowboy Stadium in Arlington, Texas, which I need to remember because that happened last year. So I think that's where they will always play Arkansas and Texas A&M. So just again, another correction because I want to come and I want to make sure that I'm correcting the mistakes I make. So of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games that I predicted, 6 were correct. Utah State was the only one I didn't get correct. So that's why my college record is looking pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with that compared to, again, my NFL record that we'll talk about in a second. So in regards to this week's matchups, I wanted to first lay down the top 25 rankings, and then I'll get to my state predictions and then some top 25 clashes. Georgia remains at number 1, Alabama 2, number 3, Ohio State, 4 is Michigan, 5, Clemson, 6 is USC. They're slowly crawling their way. They are looking pretty good, winning game after game. Number 7, Kentucky, number 8, Tennessee, number 9, Oklahoma State, number 10, North Carolina State, number 11, Penn State, number 12, Utah, number 13, Oregon, number 14, Ole Miss, number 15, Washington, number 16, Baylor, number 17, Texas A&M, number 18, Oklahoma, number 19, BYU, number 20, Arkansas, number 21, Minnesota, number 22, Wake Forest, number 23, Florida State, number 24, Pittsburgh, number 25, Kansas State. So that's your top 25 going into week 4. In regards to the games this week, some really super entertaining games. We're going to start with BYU and Utah State, the in-state rivalry battle for the Beehive boot, and I also believe battle for the wagon wheel. So I have to be very careful here, for the reason that Utah State is 1-3, but that has never stopped them from beating BYU before. Utah State has had some teams that just have an edge and find a way to beat BYU. This game's in Provo, and it's going to be the last time that they play, in my opinion, well, I would say for a while, and the more I think of it, the more I just have this feeling of it's 2022. I really wouldn't be surprised if we don't see BYU and Utah State play in the regular season, maybe if they somehow met in a bowl game. But I don't think we're going to see BYU and Utah State play each other in the regular season scheduled till, I just feel like something like 2030. I just don't see it in the rest of this decade, purely because BYU is going to want to spend their time transitioning into the Big 12. So we'll see what happens there. Again, there's no announcement of future games compared to, if you go look, there are games that BYU has contracted to still play other opponents. I believe they still have scheduled to play Boise State all the way until like 2029 or something. So it's going to be super interesting to see the next time that these two teams meet. In regards to Thursday on the gridiron in Provo, I've got to pick BYU for the reason that I didn't think I'd be saying at this point going into week 4. And that is, going into week 5. Sorry, this past week was week 4. BYU is 3-1, which that I kind of was anticipating, maybe 2-2, but 3-1 because they had a real opportunity against Baylor and they obviously won that game. But in that through this first 4 weeks, BYU has done the exact opposite of what Utah State has done, and that is BYU has not turned the ball over. Jaron Hall has 1 interception, and that was in week 1 against USF on a ball that he really shouldn't have thrown. And so against Baylor, against Oregon, 2 top 25 opponents, and then Wyoming, who is 3-1 going into last week's game, Jaron's only gave away the ball once. This BYU team doesn't turn the ball over. Their defense has been forcing turnovers. But Utah State's the exact opposite, unfortunately. They turn the ball over a lot. And the way that I saw Jaron Hall play on Saturday really impressed me. He had some great balls. That last touchdown to Keanu Hill really made me think, is that what BYU is going to try and push on Utah State? Because in my opinion, and I'm not saying that it's going to be a blowout, I'm picking BYU to win this game, but I'll be interested to see if Kalani Sitake's goal is not to run over Utah State, but see if they can soar them into the end zone and pummel them so deep into a deficit that it just never really comes back, because this is a Utah State team that's scrappy, and if you're in a close game, you give them momentum, you give them an opportunity. That's something that I wouldn't want to see in this case of a rivalry game. So I'm picking BYU. Again, I'm not going to say that they're going to win handily, because you just never know in rivalry games. But as a BYU fan, I would say if they get out to a big lead, I anticipate them to really keep the pedal to the metal and throw it down and go into, again, next week's big matchup against Notre Dame in Las Vegas at 5-1. Again, at 4-1. So really interesting matchup, though. I think it's going to be a great game on Thursday. I think it'll be very entertaining. Utah hosts Oregon State, and this game interests me. I'm picking Utah, but this is the trap of last year. Utah's lone Pac-12 loss that luckily didn't end up hurting them, but their lone loss in the Pac-12 was to Oregon State. And at the time, it seemed like a big deal, because it seemed like at that time, that loss ended any hope for a New Year's Six-Day Bowl game, because that had dropped them to 3 losses and they still had to play Oregon. So this game is in Rice-Eccles. I like this Utah team. I'm not going to pick against them very often. I think that they learned a lot from that game against Florida, and they're going to be a force to reckon with for sure in the Pac-12. I do have Utah winning this game, but again, watch out for Oregon State. They beat them last year, so I am picking Utah, but just be on alert that Oregon State has beaten Utah before. They beat Cam Rising last year. And then Weber State has a bye this week, so those are the games in the state. Out of the state and in the top 25 matchups that I enjoy talking about, number 2 Alabama is at number 20 Arkansas. This game is wildly intriguing to me, not so much because I think it's going to be a close, competitive game. I have Alabama winning, and I think, when I say close, I think Alabama's going to win anywhere from 14-17, in my opinion. I think Alabama's going to really roll over Arkansas. But this game's interesting to me because Arkansas is an opponent that BYU does play. So I am wildly intrigued to see what will happen in regards to Alabama and Arkansas, and what BYU can take from an Alabama team, really talented, hopefully showing a way to beat Arkansas. But I do have Alabama winning that top 25 matchup. A super entertaining top 10 clash in the ACC. Number 10 North Carolina State is at number 5 Clemson, and this game is wildly entertaining to me. NC State beat Clemson last year. North Carolina State, they don't have Clemson's number, but they're always a super competitive team for Clemson. But I do like the Tigers to win this game. I am picking Clemson. I'm not going to pick against them very often, especially in the ACC. I think Dabo Swinney and that Clemson staff knows how to win games, and I'm really looking forward to what they're capable of. So I've got Clemson beating North Carolina State. A top 15 matchup in the SEC. Number 7 Kentucky is at number 14 Ole Miss, and I've got Ole Miss winning this game. I like the home field advantage. I like the play of Ole Miss. I like the program that Lane Kiffin has in Ole Miss, and I think that they're going to get the upset over Kentucky. So I've got number 14 Ole Miss beating number 7 Kentucky. A top 25 matchup in the ACC again is number 22 Wake Forest at number 23 Florida State. Wake Forest gets a tough draw. They have to play Clemson, and then they have to go to Florida State. And I like Florida State winning this game for the reason of the home field advantage. I think home field is so underrated, especially in the college game. Depending on where they put the student section. And so I really like this Florida State team. I think that they play gritty, well-coached football, and I like them beating Wake Forest in this game. It's a tough matchup. Again, it's number 22 versus number 23, so flip a coin, and make your decision. Our last matchup is in the top 25, and it's in the Big 12. Number 9 Oklahoma State is at number 16 Baylor. And, Baylor intrigues me for the reason that that one loss to BYU really set them back, and they've just kind of been floating right where they are ranking-wise. I still have that Baylor team winning the Big 12, and I think that they'll start that by beating Oklahoma State on Saturday. I do have Baylor beating Oklahoma State. Again, number 9 Oklahoma State at number 16 Baylor. And I've got Baylor, which again will be a huge game in the Big 12. Huge game. Really looking forward to that marquee matchup. But those are our NCAA games that we'll review next week when I come back. Again, my NCAA record, 15-4. So luckily that has been working my way. We go to the NFL where it's been okay. My NFL record is 25-23. We'll review this in just a second, but I did go 9-7 for the second straight week, so I am 2 games over 500. Again, I started week 1, I was 7-9, and then last week I was 9-7, so I was at 500, and then this week 9-7 puts me up to 25-23. So 2 games over 500 in the NFL. And like we said before, I mean, talk about the games that we saw, the coin tosses, and some great upsets to talk about, by the way. Starting with Pittsburgh at Cleveland. I guessed that game correctly. Cleveland wins 29-17. Chicago at Houston, 23-20. Chicago was victorious. I was correct on that game. Another super competitive game, wildly entertaining. Tennessee picks up their first win of the season, 24-22 over Las Vegas. I was correct on that game. A game that I'm not going to spend too much time on, but I wanted to make a quick mention while we're here. The Indianapolis Colts upset the Kansas City Chiefs 20-17. I can get up here and I could say there was a blatantly missed face mask call. That was a big deal. I felt there was a missed pass interference call in the end zone on Travis Kelce when the defender never turned back to make contact or eye contact with the ball, but he was still having his hands on Travis Kelce. Again, my understanding was if you make physical contact with the receiver and don't turn to find the ball, it's pass interference. Whether the ball hits you or not, you have to turn around. So I was very bothered by that, but this is what I wanted to... Oh, and then there's the Chris Jones penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct. I feel like players are talking all the time and officials just kind of break them up and walk away. Those are 3 calls that I think went against the Chiefs that I think affected the game immensely. But to get rid of my biased view, let me tell you something that I want every sports fan to start saying. Your team shouldn't be in that situation. And what I mean by that is Kansas City had a missed field goal. Kansas City faked a field goal. Kansas City had struggles on special teams. Kansas City's defense couldn't get off the field sometimes. Kansas City's offense didn't seem like they were in a complete, they didn't feel like they were completely gelling. That is why Kansas City lost on Sunday. Do not come to me. As a Kansas City fan, I do not blame the officials for the loss on Sunday. I blame the Kansas City Chiefs for the Kansas City Chiefs losing. And I hope that every fan starts doing that. Every time your team loses and you feel that it's the official's fault, look at the game and say, well, don't put yourself in that situation. If you're up by 40 and you get a missed pass interference call, you're up by 40. That's winning. Don't let this game be dictated by the officials. Do your job to get to the point where they don't affect the game. That is what I will say about Kansas City and Indianapolis. 3 calls that I think win against them don't matter because the Chiefs can't be in that situation. That's how I'll say it. I think that Indianapolis wasn't the better team, but they did win the game, and that's all that matters. I hope every fan starts moving forward, not questioning and blaming the officials for a team loss, because you have a whole entire game to win. Unless you score a touchdown on every play, your team has something to work on. That's all I'm going to say there. So I was wrong on that game. A game I was wrong on that was super entertaining, Buffalo at Miami. I'm not going to talk too much about Buffalo and Miami just purely because the NFL this week, again, and we talk about this and we make this mistake, these are professional football teams. Anybody can beat anybody on any given day. Does this game, the Miami-Buffalo game, to me say Miami is now the front runner for the AFC East and they are the favorite to go represent the AFC in the Super Bowl? I'm not. I wouldn't pick Miami personally over Buffalo again because it's going to be in Buffalo. I wouldn't pick Miami over Kansas City. I wouldn't pick Miami probably over... I wouldn't pick Miami over Baltimore again. And I get that game was in Baltimore. But, you know, I feel like the Ravens are going to go win the AFC North. And if you're talking a playoff matchup in Baltimore, give me Baltimore over Miami again. So I just sit here and I say, again, no disrespect to Miami. They beat Buffalo. Congratulations. Everyone knows that they're capable, that Buffalo's capable of losing, that Miami's capable of winning. But week after week, you're playing a professional football team. So congratulations again to the Dolphins. The pressure is on. Again, in a way, they now lead the AFC East. And so if they don't win, it's just going to be, you dropped the ball. Where'd you drop it? So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Miami and Buffalo in that AFC East continuing on. A wildly entertaining game that almost didn't go my way. The Minnesota Vikings were victorious over the Detroit Lions, 28-24. Like Austin and I said last week, Detroit's going to be in games week after week. And they were. They had a 24-21. They had a 3-point lead under a minute, and Kirk Cousins stepped up clutch, had an amazing touchdown pass to go up 28-24, and that was the final score. Minnesota victorious over Detroit. Baltimore was successful over New England, 37-26. I was correct on that game. The Cincinnati Bengals get their first win of the season over the New York Jets, 27-12. The Philadelphia Eagles continue to roll. They beat Washington 24-8. New Orleans, I was correct on that game, and I was correct on the Cincinnati game. The New Orleans Saints fell to the Carolina Panthers, 22-14. I was incorrect on that game. The Jacksonville Jaguars, this is the game that to me really encompasses anybody can beat anybody on any day. I had LA winning this game, and not only did they lose, they lost 38-10. A 4-touchdown difference. I mean, congratulations to the Jacksonville Jaguars with the massive win over LA. Again, I was completely wrong. And again, not only was I completely wrong because I picked the wrong team, I was completely wrong in the team that I picked got destroyed. So congratulations to the Jaguars. The LA Rams beat the Arizona Cardinals 20-12. I was correct on that game. The Atlanta Falcons eked it out against the Seattle Seahawks 27-23. I was correct on that game. The Green Bay Packers pull off the massive, impressive win in Tampa Bay, 14-12. Huge congratulations to them. Stopped a 2-point conversion to tie the game under a minute. So congratulations to the Packers on that win. Sunday Night Football, a defensive battle. I don't know if I'd necessarily call it a game for the ages or a classic, but Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos win 11-10 over the San Francisco 49ers. And then Monday Night Football, the Dallas Cowboys pick up their second straight win with Cooper Rush at quarterback, 23-16 over the New York Giants. I was incorrect about the Dallas game. I was also incorrect again about the 49ers game. Again, there's my record, 9-7 this week. And because I didn't make mention, I was wrong about the Green Bay Tampa Bay game. So my overall record is 40-27. Again, that's my NCAA and my NFL record put together. I did want to hold accountable and give a shout out and credit to Austin Darty. His record was 10-6, a game over mine. So that means I should probably hand the show over to him, and he should be in charge from now on. 10-6, congratulations to him. Games he was right on: Cleveland, Chicago, Miami, Minnesota, Baltimore, Philadelphia, Carolina, LA Rams, Falcons, and Cowboys. Games he was incorrect on: he picked Las Vegas, he picked the New York Jets, picked the Chargers, picked the Buccaneers, and picked the 49ers. So again, 10-6. Again, congrats though to him for what I felt was a pretty solid week. Again, a game over me, so maybe it's time for me to hand this show over to Austin. For this week, just rummaging right along, I'm going to stop saying, week after week, these are just coin flip games, because that's what they are going to be consistently. Anybody can beat anybody any week. That's just all I want to get drilled into everyone's head, and especially mine, because you just need to make decisions based on that. Don't go in and say, well, this team has this record, and this team has this record, so this team's obviously going to win. Biggest warning. Remember last year when the Jacksonville Jaguars beat the Buffalo Bills 9-6? Anybody can beat anybody on any given day. So, with that in mind, Miami at Cincinnati on Thursday Night Football. I like Miami winning this game, but I think it's going to be wildly entertaining. And I won't be too surprised if Cincinnati pulls out the win on their home field in primetime. So, wildly entertaining matchup, but I am going to pick Miami. I think it's going to be a close one. Minnesota at New Orleans. I like Minnesota. Again, I just think that they can play at a level that they can continuously win games. That game is actually 7:30 a.m. our time. It's in London, so the Saints don't necessarily get the home field advantage. So I do like the Vikings in this game. Cleveland is at Atlanta. This is a tough one for me. I'm going to pick Cleveland. Again, not necessarily out of my feel that they're necessarily better than Atlanta, just so much as I think that they can win this game. So I think that Cleveland's got this game against Atlanta, but that'll be another toss-up one. It's an early game at 11 a.m. But again, I'm going to pick Cleveland over the Falcons. I've got the Dallas Cowboys over the Washington Commanders. Apologize, my computer just went off. That has some of my notes on it. I apologize. Again, Washington Commanders at the Dallas Cowboys. You know, Dallas is going to continue to be a fascinating team with Cooper Rush. They're now 2-0 with Cooper Rush, and I do like them beating the Commanders. I think it's going to be the defense that really steps up and really impresses us and really holds this team together. They did last night. So I like the Cowboys. The Seattle Seahawks are at the Detroit Lions. This is a game where I'm going to pick Detroit. I think that they're going to get the win on their home field. Again, I just think that this Seattle team has so many questions, and I just think that they are just too many questions for me to pick Seattle on a weekly basis, and this is going to be one where I'm not going to pick them. Tennessee is at Indianapolis. I like Tennessee to start off their to get a rebound in the AFC South. I'm picking Tennessee. Indianapolis, you just don't know. You just don't know. But I'm going to pick the Titans. The Chicago Bears are at the New York Giants. I like the Giants to win this game and rebound. It's just going to be all about getting Daniel Jones time, because I felt like in yesterday's Monday Night Football game, he had some miraculous plays, actually, and the dude's just running for his life. Just give him the chance. Obviously, if he's running for his life, you're not that afraid of Saquon Barkley in the way of you could sell it on the run and take him out and then make Daniel Jones do his thing. But I do have the New York Giants over the Chicago Bears. The Jacksonville Jaguars at the Philadelphia Eagles. I like this Philadelphia team. I think they'll be a really entertaining challenge in the NFC East. I think it'll be Cowboys-Eagles that'll really hammer it down. But I'm going to pick Philadelphia, but don't sleep on Jacksonville, obviously. The New York Jets are at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, I just can't really pick the Jets right now, unfortunately. Just so many questions. And moving forward, I don't know when Zach Wilson will be back. Will they improve? Will they decrease? Hard to say. I like this Pittsburgh team at home in a battle of 1 and 2 teams. The Buffalo Bills are at the Baltimore Ravens. I like Buffalo to get a rebound and beat Baltimore. But that's just a tough draw game. This is both teams are 2-1. On the road, I do like Buffalo getting the win, but I think it'll be wildly entertaining. The LA Chargers are at the Houston Texans. I like the Chargers rebounding and beating this Texans team that, again, is another one of those just huge, major question marks. Arizona's at Carolina. I've got Arizona winning this game, due in large part because I get that the Panthers just beat the Saints, but with the Panthers, to me, too many questions. I can't pick them very often, and I'll pick Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. The New England Patriots are at the Green Bay Packers. For right now, without Mac Jones, and I don't know the injury report yet, Without Mac Jones, I don't know how many games, if any, I'll be able to pick the Patriots. I've got the Packers regardless. Even if the Patriots did have Mac Jones, I'd still probably pick the Packers. But without Mac Jones, that is really going to be a tough hill to climb for the New England Patriots. The Denver Broncos are at the Las Vegas Raiders. I like Las Vegas picking up their first win over Denver, but it's going to be interesting to see with Denver in the way of, did Russell Wilson find his groove? That game-winning touchdown drive on Sunday night really was quite a drive in the way of, it was Russell Wilson-esque. It was the real Russell Wilson. So we'll see if they get back on track. I personally don't think so. I think Las Vegas is going to win this game, but that is a tough one. It's going to be wildly entertaining. And if they don't win, Las Vegas drops to 0-4 all of a sudden. So interesting to see what will happen there. But I've got Las Vegas. The Kansas City Chiefs are at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday Night Football. And in the fear of being wrong, because I don't like to pick against the Chiefs, I'm going to pick Tampa Bay just because if Tampa Bay would have beaten Green Bay, I probably would pick Kansas City. But I think it's going to be Tampa Bay. Again, this is kind of a win-win in the way of, I'll either be right and my record will improve, or I'll be wrong and my favorite team will win. So I'm going to pick Tampa Bay, but that is such a tough one for me to say. I just don't see them losing 2 weeks in a row, and I don't see them losing 2 weeks in a row at home. So I'm picking Tampa Bay, but again, just talk about an absolute dogfight. Again, obviously, for me personally, go Kansas City, but I'm going to pick Tampa Bay and hope that I'm wrong, if I'm being 100% honest. Monday Night Football, another team that I'd love to see win, but I don't think they will. My San Francisco 49ers host the LA Rams, and I've got the LA Rams in this game. I think San Francisco just has way too many questions, way too many problems. Turnover central in San Francisco. It's not even a joke. And I like the Rams winning this game. Unfortunately for San Francisco, they just don't have the answers, in my opinion, right now. I like them taking second in the division, maybe pushing for a wild card. I like them over the Cardinals, and I like them over the Seahawks, but I think that the Rams are going to win on Monday and start their repeat as the NFC West champions. So again, I'm going the LA Rams. Those are all my picks for this upcoming week of NFL football. And again, hopefully you've been following along. Hopefully you've been staying accountable as well. I really enjoy staying accountable to my watchers because it shows that I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong, which I've been almost as much as I've been right. But also, it's really proven again, it's just a coin toss. You don't know in the NFL. These are professional football teams that go out, and some weeks they have it, sometimes they don't. So I really hope you look forward to this upcoming week of NFL football. Again, week 4 will be coming right at you. I did want to start for the conclusion a new segment, and I'm actually going to do 2 segments, and this is to hopefully get my viewers involved, because I love to hear from all of my viewers around. And so this first segment, and I'll do this weekly, so please leave your comments, leave your questions. It's called Questioning Connor. I don't have a nice little jingle or anything going right now, unfortunately. But this segment of Questioning Connor, I pulled a question, and it can be about any topic at any time, by the way. I pulled from my YouTube channel from a comment, and again, I apologize, my laptop that has all of my notes keeps turning off. So sorry, I will find a way to make that go away and keep it awake. The question actually comes from my friend Austin Darty. And again, it brings in a new topic, so I'm grateful for that question. He said, what are your thoughts? Actually, so first and foremost, shout out to Austin Darty. Again, thank you for being on the show, and I hope you all enjoyed him last week. His question is, what are your thoughts on the Utah Jazz rebuilding their whole team? Again, this is the Questioning Connor segment. Austin Darty asked, what are your thoughts on the Utah Jazz rebuilding their whole team? And, first and foremost, I did want to say I didn't do an emergency podcast when Bojan Bogdanovic got traded. Farewell to Bojan. Thank you for all that he did. He had 2 iconic game winners. He was an amazing piece. So farewell to him. Hopefully he does his best in Detroit. The Jazz picked up Kelly Olynyk, and I apologize, I can't remember his name. I think it's Darren Lee for Bogey. So what are my thoughts on the Utah Jazz rebuilding their whole team? I got to give credit to a friend of mine who was talking about the podcast, and if he's watching, he knows because he's the only person who brought this up to me, and I've actually kind of spread this. I feel like this is so true. He equivalated this Utah Jazz team to the 1980 men's hockey miracle team. You know, the movie Miracle with Kurt Russell. The United States men's national hockey team won gold in 1980 over the mighty Soviet Union in the semifinal. Actually, they beat the Soviet Union in the semifinal. It was a miracle season. These were a bunch of college kids who came together. And my friend made the mention why he equivalated this Jazz team to the miracle team was because the Miracle on Ice team was not the world's best players. There were players better than them that played in the Soviet Union, but they were the best players for that team that played together. And so I look at this Utah Jazz team, and last year I dragged myself to a couple of Jazz games because I felt like it was my obligation or responsibility as a Jazz fan to go, but I just had a hard time watching them. I dragged myself to the game. I just sat there and I kind of clapped. And I just thought, man, this is just not this just isn't my team. This isn't who I like. This isn't who I vote for. This year, season opener is Wednesday, October 19th against the Denver Nuggets. You know I'll be there. This Utah Jazz team is a team that I am beyond excited to watch. My thoughts are that you can't get any worse, in my opinion, than last year's team. And I am dead serious on that. And the reason I say it is this reason. Last year's team lost in the first round. And I know you can say, well, what if we have the worst record in the NBA? Then what? That's a price I'm willing to pay for moving forward and being better. The Utah Jazz needed a fresh start. Will Hardy, love that man. I am super excited to see what he can do coaching this Jazz team. I am really looking forward to this Jazz team. My thoughts are that they'll still be wildly entertaining. I don't know how competitive they'll be. I do think that in the West, they can make the play-in tournament. You know, to make the play-in tournament, you need to be a top 10 seed out of 15 teams. And I think Utah is that. I think they're probably lower. I think they're, somewhere in that 7 to 10 range. But I do think that they'll make the play-in, which gives them a great opportunity to go make the playoffs at least, which, again, to me, meets your standard of making the playoffs. The Jazz have made the playoffs and only advanced out of the first round twice in what was the Donovan Mitchell era. And so I look at the Jazz, and my thoughts are that they are going to be wildly entertaining this season, but a contender in the years to come. I love that question, Austin. Thank you for asking that. Again, what are my thoughts on the Utah Jazz rebuilding their entire team? The questioning Connor segment. That's the question of the questioning Connor segment. What are your thoughts on the Utah Jazz rebuilding their whole team? I love it. And I am looking forward to seeing what they do this year. And I'm more excited to see what they do moving forward. In conclusion to that question, I wanted to make the mention, when Danny Ainge came into Utah, he inherited a dumpster fire in the way of they were cap restricted, and they had a team that didn't want to play winning basketball and do what needed to be done. That's a dumpster fire. There's no value. The team that Danny Ainge now has is a gold mine, in the way that right now you walk right into the mine and there's gold everywhere. You can mine and you can walk away victorious right now, but just wait till you start digging. There is some major gold to come with the draft picks, to come with the meshing of the team. And with Mike Conley and Jordan Clarkson still on the roster, we'll see if the Jazz move them and get more pieces. But I am super ecstatic and super excited for the Utah Jazz. Really looking forward to cheering them on and watching a wildly entertaining team. So that was our, again, newest segment, Questioning Connor. I'm a big alliteration person, so I get that that's a Q, and my name starts with a C, but the Questioning Connor is my alliteration. Again, a new segment. So if you have a question, please leave it in my comment section. Leave the question and I will hopefully get to it. I probably am only going to be able to do one a week. So that was our question for this week. This next segment that I will end with is Connor's question. Again, the alliteration, not all that great, but I'm going to do it anyway. So Connor's question, and this is, I kind of cheated a little bit. I actually sent a text out and asked this question to a couple of my viewers. But starting today, once I finish the segment, I will ask a question on the podcast. And then I hope that you can comment and leave your answer and we'll review them. So the question that I asked a couple of my viewers was, I said, what are your thoughts on the AFC West, which involves the Kansas City Chiefs, the Los Angeles Chargers, the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Denver Broncos? I said, what are your thoughts on the AFC West? Right now, the Chiefs lead at 2-1. The Chargers just lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars and fell to 1-2. The Raiders are 0-3. And the Denver Broncos, although they're 2-1, lost to a very questionable Seattle Seahawks team, beat a very weak Houston Texans team, and struggled mightily against the San Francisco 49ers. And just a couple responses. I guess you can say on paper, they're supposed to be very mighty, but people have classified the AFC West as the division to beat, and that's just not the case. And here are some great answers. And if you agree or disagree, please comment. The Raiders only got Devontae Adams, which is an upgrade in the receiving core, but doesn't improve the entire team from barely making the playoffs to a Super Bowl contender. So true. This is a Raiders team that made the playoffs with the skin of their teeth and then really dropped it and blew it against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Chargers upgraded their defense, but as we saw in the Jags game, did their defense actually improve? Such a great question. I love that point. The Broncos upgraded their quarterback, but what can he work with on that team? They traded away Noah Fant, and Jerry Jeudy, unfortunately, hasn't been the most reliable so far, so completely agree there. They have, and he continues, they have put Russell Wilson in a tough spot, and I just don't see them being successful anytime soon. The Chiefs lost Hill, which hurts them in the explosive plays, but out of the four teams, which team did it best? You have to say the Chiefs. So those are the thoughts. Those are some thoughts on the AFC West. Another subscriber said, this division is in a rough patch with injuries regarding the Los Angeles Chargers. Denver's rebuilding, and Kansas City and Las Vegas are making adjustments. Right now, considering what I've seen this past week, the Chiefs are still superior in the division. This is a Kansas City team that has won the division. It's a little embarrassing. I don't know. I think it's 7 years in a row now, I think. 7-8 years in a row. So superior is probably a pretty good word. Just regarding some specifics, the Chiefs showed us that there's a little more work to be done on the offense, but their defense was capable of sacking Matt Ryan 5 times and stopping Jonathan Taylor on the run game. Denver and Las Vegas right now, this is so good. I completely agree with this, are making too many mistakes on both sides of the ball. And we saw that on Sunday night in Denver. Like, they would turn the ball over. Luckily, they forced turnovers. But it was a very sloppy game, so I love that comment. And I thought this was a hot take, and I love this. The Chargers are only dangerous if the offense is healthy, which we saw. Justin Herbert is obviously not 100%. Keenan Allen not even playing. So a really interesting breakdown by the AFC West. The last comments that we'll get out on. The Chiefs are going to be just fine, says another subscriber. Special teams miscues and a very careless personal foul cost them the game against the Colts. completely agree. Derek Carr needs to find Devontae Adams more. Only 7 receptions combined in the last 2 games for the best wide receiver in the league. And I'm not just saying this because he's on my fantasy team. Chargers just need to get healthy, I think. Star-studded roster. The Broncos defense is legit. Offense is horrible. I understand Wilson hasn't been here a whole year yet, but my goodness, he is missing passes that he should easily be hitting. And how true. There were some plays that Russell Wilson just didn't make, that he did make that last drive. So Denver has the capability, just better execution. Overall, I think we will only see one AFC West team in the playoffs. The AFC is stacked. And it's a great point there. Because again, you look at it and you say, you get 7 teams. You get your 3 division winners, who I think, personally, is going to be Kansas City, Buffalo. 4 division winners, sorry. Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore, and Tennessee. And then you look and you say, I think Miami's going to take a playoff spot. You got 2 teams left, and I just don't know, if it'll be the Chargers or the Raiders. Again, you could put the Broncos in there. I don't know. To me, I don't know if they're in that race already, compared to you wonder what the Bengals are going to do. Are they going to get better and get back to the way they were? I hate to say the Colts, you just never know with the way they played this last Sunday. What are the Jaguars going to do, for heaven's sakes? What are, all these teams going to do? So a very interesting comment, but one that may prove to be, that may come to be true. So again, if you have a question or you want to answer my question that I will announce here, just drop it in the comment section. I'd love to have all of your opinions and your viewpoints. Sorry, I lost my train of thought on that word. So to conclude our episode, and this is how I'll conclude every episode, I will end it with the Connors question. That's me asking you a question on the video. Please comment and leave your answers, and I'll hopefully pull some and talk about them. My question for everyone here is, who is the MVP up to this point, according to your vote? Who is the MVP up to this point, your vote in the NFL? That's Connor's question, so please leave your answer and your reasoning in the comment section. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for tuning in. This was a little longer than I was hoping, but shorter than last week's, which was good. So thank you again for tuning in. Have a great week. Really looking forward to joining you next week when we'll again review the NFL, the NCAA, the MLB regular season will be coming to a conclusion, the MLS playoffs, everything good in the sports world. Let's talk about it more next week. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great day. I've been your host, Mr. Unbiased, Connor Benyon. Today, again, September 27th, 2022, episode 6 of Unbiased. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.